Welcome, everybody, and welcome back to Business Weekly here on Love Bay Afrobeat Music Talk Radio, where we build powerful leaders, unstoppable CEOs, and legendary empires, one conversation at a time. I'm Miss J, your drip strategist, boss methodologist, and hostess with the mostest. And today, we're diving into part two of our three-part series, Be in the Room. Last week we confronted, oh, I'm already telling you to fly with me. Why not? Let's just get to the basics here. Here's the right cover page. We're not at the end of the show. I just arrived. Hello. But last week we confronted the cost of silence, the hidden price leaders pay when they fail to speak up, advocate, or clarify. This week, we're moving it from silence to structure with a transformational framework called the Experience Cube, a framework for courageous conversations. So, things like, have you ever really struggled to articulate difficult things, right? If you're ever worried about damaging relationships, upsetting your team, or rocking the boat, well, if you've ever avoided a conversation and paid for it later, this show is for you. But first, you know how we do. It's time for another Dear Miss J, letters from a CEO. So, what is our letter this week? Well, this one says, I'm a CEO growing a company, and lately I have been struggling. Ooh, that's tough with the conversations I'm having. There are team members who are underperforming, leaders who avoid accountability, and partners who overstep boundaries. Girl, been there, done that. I'm gonna tell you this. I know these conversations are necessary, but every time I prepare to address the issue, I hesitate. I worry about disrupting operations, triggering emotional reactions, or damaging relationships that I've spent years building. The result, I hold it in, carry the weight alone, and hope things fix themselves, but they never do. How do I step into difficult conversations as a CEO without creating chaos or feeling like the bad guy? Silent but stressed CEO. And you know that I will always have something to say because I'm Miss J. So, dear silent but stressed CEO, your honesty is powerful. And let me tell you, you're not alone. Every CEO reaches a moment where the silence becomes louder than the words they're afraid to speak. So, as always, we're going to walk through it through the drip framework. Let's talk about D, drive. As a visionary of your company, your drive must serve the mission, not the moment. Courageous conversations aren't interruptions, they're instruments. A CEO with drive chooses clarity over comfort, even when the conversation gets heavy. Now, I like to say I run into conflict head first because why? I know that if I don't stand or how would I say, create the platform for me to stand on, then who's going to hear my voice? The next one I want you to run with is resilience. Remember that resilience isn't just about surviving setbacks, it's about addressing tensions before they become crises, right? And difficult conversations are not signs of conflict, contrary to what many people believe, but they're actually commitments to continuity, right? You're really looking to find the problem because, like you said, you've built long term relationships with these people. So, one incident or two, or maybe a period of behaviors shouldn't derail all that you put into it. A CEO really, especially if you have drive, they choose clarity over comfort, even when the conversation is super heavy, right? So, remind yourself that with resilience, you will grow every time you refuse to let fear dictate your silence. And if you are fearing these people, you got to check on your boss, honey. You got to check on that attitude. You got to throw it up, right? Let's talk about innovation. Innovation isn't only technology, it's leadership. Using a tool like the Experience Cube is innovative communication. And that's why I hope you're listening today because I brought on someone who's going to break that down for you. It lets you step into the conversations with structure, neutrality, and balance so you're not reacting emotionally or leading from frustration. And if you're already a person who goes and gets quick to anger, it's pretty tough sometimes to walk in with clarity and be concise and be committed to resolve or finding ways to get things done because you're already still in a highly emotional state of frustration. And last but not least, progression. Progression happens when you choose leadership over avoidance. How many times have you walked away from a conversation you don't want to have? I train myself to walk towards the conversation because I don't want to have to sit in a room or a board meeting or any other place for that matter, looking around and thinking, what are they thinking about me? Who's talking about me? Oh my God, I can't believe this person did this. Why waste all of that time when I could be using that precious time to be building my empires? So when CEOs avoid tough conversation, your company growth hits a ceiling. It gets capped. And that glass ceiling is a dangerous place to be because it creates stagnation and mediocrity. But when you address issues with honesty, clarity, and compassion, then the flow begins again, right? It never left. It's just like there's something blocking it. And what do we do at blockage? We get in there, we throw some Drano in the drain, and we hope that the contents of it flushes out all of the blockage. That's exactly what you want to do with these conversations. Remember, your voice is not a weapon, it's a steering wheel. It's guiding you to where you need to be. And today, with the Experience Cube, it's going to help you to guide that vehicle with precision. All right, so we're going to break it down today in today's episode. And we know today's episode is about the Experience Cube, and we're doing part two, Be in the Room, part two. Part one, we did a few weeks ago. It was The Cost of Silence. I had an amazing conversation with my girl, Lauren Morrison. And today I'm bringing her back for part two. And next week, part three. I told y'all, you asked and I have giveth. You're welcome. So in this main segment, we're really going to be talking about the communication framework that helps leaders to break down those difficult conversations into four simple balance components. The first one's going to be facts. What actually happened? Observable, neutral, and without interpretation, because facts anchor the conversation. That's why men hate to fight with women, because we are facts, honey. We come through with the facts, right? We come through. And let me tell you, I ain't mad at it. I could tell my husband when, where, what time, what I was wearing, what he was wearing, what we were eating, what we were smelling. Like, I could tell you all of that, right? So this is where we're at. Let me just check in with the people before we go on. Hey, 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 I see people coming through. Tara's in the building. Captured by Shani's in the building. I see Mark, who is driving somewhere. And when he's the squad's pulling up heavy. There you go. Laura's people are in the building, loving what we are doing here. And please keep tuning in with us right here weekly at 7 o'clock p.m., where we talk about business and not just things that are, tips, tools, and techniques, but just strengthening yourself as a CEO. Because you see, being in the coaching field for over 30 years, I've coached professional athletes, professional performers. I'm a high performance coach. I love getting people to the place where they can take their potential and turn it into dollars. Okay, so today, if you're just getting in here, we're streaming live. Make sure you subscribe to Love Bay's channel. We are looking to reach new numbers. We are currently streaming at 32.6 million views across the world. And so please tap in and be part of the conversation. As you know, we were just talking about part two, and I was just breaking down what we're going to break down in the Experience Cube. So make sure you get your pens and papers, take out your phones, do what you need to do, capture this magic. So we just talked about facts, what actually happened, feelings, what emotions arise, calmly and clearly express. Are you feeling humanized in the conversation? We're going to talk a little bit about stories. What's the meaning of assumptions that you're making? A lot of people tend to think that other people are making them, but really and truthfully, you have to ask yourself, how many assumptions do I make? All right. And then desires. What do you want to go forward? What are the expectations? What are the boundaries? Because these desires are going to shift the conversation. Now, the cube is going to work because it's going to help you to do a few things. And you're going to learn that today. And who are you going to learn it from? None other than the author. I'm not even going to go through her whole spiel because I'll tell you why. She's super amazing. That's all I have to say. Lauren Morrison has grown up in the corporate industry. She has done so much. And I'm going to keep it simple because I want you to remember and follow and purchase her book, Be in the Room. She's new. I don't even think she's a new author in my life, but she's a new author to you, maybe, but you got to get in there because she helps people. She not only just helps corporations and CEOs, but she helps executive career, you name it, she is here for you. And before I go off into some long written spiel of a bio, just know that if you're in the room, you need to hear from her direct. So welcome to the show, my girl, Lauren Morrison. and her picture. How
That
you doing?
has been my face the entire intro. How long has your intro been? Like 12 minutes? I haven't stopped
Almost,
smiling. My cheeks hurt.
almost. I try to get through the intro quick so we can get to the guests
It
because this
wasn't
is the
me.
fun
I'm
part.
sorry, but like you dropped like so many gems. Just like, oh, like the frames. Silence to structure, like conflict to commitment to continuity, weapon to steering wheel.
Girl, you know
Get
how
me
Miss
off
J
get me
do.
off the radio show. I have nothing to add.
Show done. See you next week on part three.
Period. We're done.
Drop the tea. Girl, I'm only opening and setting up the floor for you. That's just what I do. I set the stage for my guests because I know what gems they're going to be dropping. And this is where I get to sit back and take some notes myself. And so
Yeah.
this is going to be super exciting, this conversation. So let's just dig right in. Let's start with the first section. The first section I wanted to talk about was understanding courageous conversations.
Yeah.
And I really, we're going to pull from the cost of silence when you were talking about when you're in the room and you're not saying something. Why do you think leaders avoid these tough conversations? What kind of language? Conversations. So that's our new word, the conversations. Um, how do they avoid these tough
Can you
conversations,
spell
especially
that?
with I tell you, it's going to be one of those tongue twister days. But why do you think that leaders avoid tough conversations, especially with people who are close to them?
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's a great. I think that your letter to the CEO really captured it. It is that fear of rocking the boat, especially when oftentimes when we want to have difficult conversations, it's because something is on the line.
Mhm.
And we fear that by having a difficult conversation, we may not just be putting that relationship in jeopardy, but we may also be putting like an outcome that we desire, a deliverable, a project, something else at jeopardy. Because
Right.
if we offend somebody, like who knows what they're going to do. So
These are
it
facts.
that's I think that that's what makes it hard. It's not just the relationship, but also the outcome, the deliverable that we do care about as CEOs, as leaders. Like if I upset this person, are they going to like sabotage? Are they going to not put in the amount of effort? Are they going to stop working? Are they going to leave? Am I going to be
Mhm.
without a person? So I think that that really does contribute to a lot of that resistance on why it sometimes feels easier to just say like, you know what, let's just let that slide, or like let me not rock the boat, or let's just see what happens, or maybe more commonly, maybe it's just easier if I just do it myself.
Yeah, that's true. One of the things working in corporate in government for a long time is you see the posturing and you see that, you come in and you want to be that fun supervisor, that fun manager, you want to be connected, you want to go out for drinks after, you want them to respect you and like you. And the moment they start doing things against the grain, there's a conflict, right? And I think we all go through it. When I first became a supervisor of like a lot of staff, it was a lot of staff. I had like 20 or 30 full time, and then a lot of hundreds of part time staff. But the first time I got into position, it was almost like I was that cool supervisor. But then
Oh,
people started taking advantage, and I tell them, I said, listen, you don't put food in my children's mouth. So understand if you get into any kind of things that you don't want to be doing policy wise, I have to report. I have to do this. And it does turn the tide a bit because now they're looking at you differently, they're responding to you differently. And if you are not a person of confidence and say, well, this is what it is, you tend to try to shrink into them, right? By, okay, well, just don't do it again. Or to your point, let me just get it done so nobody's getting chewed out, right, on the squad. So I feel you on that 100%.
exactly. Yeah.
100%.
I just want to say, I don't even understand how anyone could interact you in a work setting with you in a work setting and be like, oh, this is a person I could take advantage of. Like,
Like, you know what? People,
I think we're just telling stories at this point.
I wish. I really do. People they mistake my humor, me. I'm
Yeah,
always like
I
running
do
a
know.
joke, or I believe going to work, you should have fun. I mean, if I'm gonna be here 10 to 15 hours a day, I might as well. Like, who else do you laugh with? Who else do you go and
Yeah.
chill with, right? So I think they mistake that until I get serious. And then it's like, whoa,
Well, I
what?
think too, what the challenge is, especially for, people in corporate environments who climb the ladder vertically, like the people who used to be your peers now report into you, like that's weird.
Exactly. That's
I've
weird.
had the situation where my former boss became my direct report. I can't, I don't even,
Oh,
I don't even know how to have
ooh,
that. I don't even
mm.
know how to do that performance review. Like,
I was yeah, that's a tough
yeah,
one. That's
yeah.
a tough one. I
So
can't say I've had that.
So there's
I've
a
had
lot of
people that
different
tell me
variables that make.
that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
It
If
makes.
you hear me cutting you off, it's because you
I
see
know.
how I'm moving delayed. Okay, so you're looking extremely fine, but for some odd reason I feel delayed. So sometimes I hear you and then I think you're finished. So just bear
Yeah.
with me in
But
my
I
little
think
internet.
just even to your earlier point, like what it sometimes comes down to is like just the fear of even being disliked can be something,
Mhm.
the fear of not doing a good job, the fear of being disliked can definitely get in the way of just navigating some of these difficult conversations, which is really why I appreciated your reframe around conflict. Now, conflict in and of itself is not a word that means like anger. It's not in
Mhm.
and of itself a word that means like unhelpful or unhealthy. Conflict is just like two opposing views coming together, right? And
Right.
that can be done in a healthy way. But when we think about conflict, we think often about confrontation, we think about like strife, we think about like negative emotions, which is
Yeah.
why I really like your reframe about commitment to continuity. Because when it comes to tools like the experience cube, the tool in and of itself is great. But if you don't have like the positive intention going into it, if you don't have the belief structure around what that conversation really is, then it's really difficult to use. Because if you look at the experience cube as a way to like navigate a fight, you may not use it effectively
You're right.
versus like
Going out swinging and hit yourself. Yeah. Mhm.
exactly navigating a difficult conversation with positive intention,
Mhm.
meaning like that, which is why I really like that commitment to continuity piece.
Yeah. 1,000. Well, you're more than welcome to keep it
I
using.
wrote it
Don't feel
down and signed
it
my
there.
name to it, so
I love it. I love it. I can now say, as a wise woman once said. Have you ever witnessed a moment where silence caused more harm than speaking up?
yeah, definitely often. And I think it comes down to, and it can even be in small moments. Like every time where someone asks us to do something, like for example, someone asks us to deliver on something or like add this extra deadline and we say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we know that it's unrealistic. Meanwhile, we know what we have to
Yeah.
sacrifice in order to make it happen. In order
Mm-hmm.
to say yes to this, we're saying no to a lot of things that are meaningful to us and
Mm-hmm.
saying no to ourselves. And when we do that over and over again, not only does it erode performance, but it also increases resentment. And resentment is like the key ingredient to burnout and checkout,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, that's
So
true.
that is why like silence maybe in the moment can be strategic, because let me just say, like, we don't have to fight every fight.
Those are
Silence in
facts.
a moment can be strategic
Those are facts. I agree.
when we are. But however, if we're not checking ourselves for, am I okay with what I'm saying no to in order to say yes to this, if we are continuing to erode ourselves in order to lift something else or someone else up, that's really where that silence is costing.
I agree. And when you're coming from a CEO perspective, like people, especially if when you're in the growth stage of businesses, you're a small business owner, right? You're operator, you're getting out there, you're shaking hands, and you don't even realize that sometimes those connections are not as fruitful as one may think. And you
Mhm.
don't think strategically to have those conversations, especially the ones who are, they're connected to taking from you, but not necessarily contributing to your growth,
Exactly.
right? And you feel like I've made a good contact, I have a new business card, I'm putting them on my database, but really and truthfully, it's almost the other way. You need to just move and run the other way, right?
Yeah. And sometimes you can tell when that's happening. Sometimes you can't tell in the moment,
True.
but when it's nagging at you
Something's real.
long after the conversation's over,
Yep.
chances are like
Something's
that
real.
silence has already started costing you.
100%. 100%. Let's jump into the experience queue. We've been talking about it, we've been opening it. From your perspective, why is a structured tool like the experience cube important for CEOs and teams?
I don't even think CEOs and teams, I think humans. Like, let me tell you, this
Hmm.
tool has saved my marriage. It has
Wow.
allowed me.
That's deep. That went left. I did not see that coming.
It's a marriage saving tool. This is human, like relationship saving. I can have a better relationship with my sister, with my kids.
Love that.
Like, I think that because the fundamental reason why this tool is effective, whether you are in a boardroom or whether you are at a kitchen table, is what it does is it takes the blame out of the situation. It takes the finger pointing out of the situation and
Right.
helps to mitigate another person feeling attacked because it focuses more on your experience
Mhm.
than your than it what it does is it says this isn't necessarily the truth, but this is what I'm experiencing.
Mm.
However, oftentimes when we get into arguments or conflict, we express our opinions as if they are the truth. And that's when
Yes.
we feel attacked. So this is a way to kind of say that we've all experienced the exact same thing in this room. However, how we are interpreting that scenario can be completely different. And here's my interpretation. Here's how I'm making sense of it. And I'm open to hearing how you're making sense of it.
Yes, and there's a really old saying. There's uh, your side, my side, your side, and then there's a truth, right? And
Yeah.
I used to use that all the time in camps when you got those two kids running up, oh, Miss J, they hit me, and blah, blah, blah. And then you're like, okay, what happened on this side of the story? And then eventually you can just find the truth within the two stories, right? And so
Yeah, and I
it's
think that the cool
really
thing
interesting.
about it is like just even the acknowledgement that there is no real truth in a sense. Like there's no I don't know how to put it, but it's like someone's intention on how they approached it is their
Is
truth.
their truth. I agree.
Exactly. Yeah.
I agree.
And everyone has their own truth, but is there any kind of universal truth? I don't know. Other than like again when we talk about facts. So for
Yeah,
example,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
fact is you are nodding your head as I'm speaking. My interpretation of that is that you agree with me. What could actually be happening is you're checked out and you're just trying to get through this conversation and be like, when is she going to stop talking?
I would have just ended the show and told them put on a replay, honey. I ain't got time. This is the truth.
I'm like,
This is where we
but
at.
I'm being like, wow,
But I
she's
hear you. I
so
hear you.
engaged.
Yeah.
But
I'm
the
locked
only
in.
truth is
Mhm.
that you are nodding your head.
Yeah.
That is it. That is the
Well,
only thing that we know for sure.
here's how I see it. Because I mean, if we say people are in their truth, then some of these crazy girls who are like doing some crazy things after the boyfriends break up, or dudes are doing some crazy things. I mean, if that stood firm, we would be in a whole lot of trouble because people would just be having their truth. I know a lot of people would probably be flattened along my lifeline, my lifetime because of my truth, right? You ain't loyal, okay, pop pop, gang gang. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, it could go left or right. But I do agree with the fact
That
that
escalated very quickly.
just to break that down, you know what I mean? I tell people, don't let me stop smiling. It's gonna be a problem. But definitely when it comes down to, I see that there's always an underlying alignment of a fact,
Yes.
right? He hit me, I hit him. But the why is always a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
I don't know why he hit me. I was sharing the toy. And over here, he's saying, I hit him because he wasn't sharing the toy. But
Yeah.
his idea of what sharing is, and that person's idea of what sharing is, two totally different perspectives, right?
Totally
So
different
I
things.
agree with what you're saying in terms of that yes, what is someone's perspective is their truth. Their
Yeah.
opinion based on their nurturing or nature could be their truth. But I
Yeah.
guess at some point, how the truth reconciles within a situation is determined by the outcomes of that perspective,
Yeah,
right?
I think you're exactly right. It's the outcomes piece of it, because I think it's like where two people can come together and express their truths, and then
Mhm.
for those two people to come to an agreement on what will be true from here on out. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
That they can
Um,
both align with. I have a
exactly. That's
question here
exactly.
for you from Tara's Vegan Cuisine. Shout out TG. She said, have you ever felt guilt after you've spoken up, and how did you handle it? That's a good question.
Oh, all the time.
She bakes cakes, y'all. She makes her world-renowned cakes.
Yeah, I do feel guilt after I have spoken up because sometimes the immediate response of me speaking up is someone being unhappy, someone being dissatisfied, someone being confused, someone being upset. So, yeah, I'm going to feel guilt. How do I handle it? Is like I check myself for like, do I respect the way I approached it though? Did
Mhm.
I speak to, if I can respect how I approached it, then that helps me to mitigate that guilt and to say
Right.
that I'm sorry that this person is experiencing negative emotions for hearing for hearing my truth. Um, but that's okay because I needed to, but because I respect how I spoke my truth, which is why I love the tool like the experience cube, is because following that structure, it really helps to ensure that I communicate my truth in a way that afterwards I can look back and respect and be like, but I did it respectfully. I did it with
Mhm.
kindness. I did it with positive intention. And at the end
Mhm.
of the day, that's what really matters because I can't guarantee that someone, even after using the experience cube, isn't going to be upset about it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Like this doesn't like cure anger. It helps narrow the gap, but it also doesn't control how the other
Mhm.
person is going to show up, what kind of day they have, what kind of experiences they have. It doesn't control any of that. So my goal is to not necessarily rid somebody of their negative responses to my truth, but to help to narrow that gap. And by being able to reflect on how I showed up afterwards and reduce that guilt, because I can say, like, the end of the day, I showed up in a way that I'm proud of myself.
Nice. For me, I don't feel guilt much these days. I speak up, and you're just gonna either love it or hate it. I tell people, you're gonna love me or hate me. I am a walking holiday, mind you, but I could also be Hurricane Melissa when I'm ready. Like it's a situation, right? But I don't feel guilty because I think that over the years in my life, people have said, "Oh, Mr. You're so aggressive," and I've heard that from I was very young. I'm aggressive because I state what I'm thinking. You asked me a question or you've done something, I'm going to state my case. And they think that, oh, well, you're so good for that. And over the years, I had to teach myself. I think that when I got into uh, probably into management, and I heard that a few times around a table, or I said, no, I'm not aggressive. I'm assertive. I'm
Mm,
speaking up for what I believe in. And just because it doesn't fit your little narrative, it doesn't put me in a place where I have to feel guilty about being who I am. We talk about authenticity, but really and truthfully, how authentic are you if you're only saying things that everybody wants to hear, or you don't want to get into conflict, or you don't want to share your opinion or your perspective, or sometimes your reality? And I think when I look at a lot of the people who work or in the communities, or working in a business or whatever the case is, or even just sitting at a table, they lose their voice, not because somebody took it from them. They lost it because they were too afraid to speak up. And there's nothing negative in speaking up, in my opinion. There's nothing negative about it. You and I may not have, just like as you said earlier, are you really engaged, shaking your head and actively listening? Or are you checked out and just hoping I can get through this interview and go lay down and sleep? That's your thoughts. It didn't come from me.
yeah.
Right? So I don't hold myself responsible for your thoughts. If you want to say, hey, Miss J, you said something that triggered me or offended me, then let's have that conversation, honey. And we gonna get to the bottom of that. But there's no way I'm feeling guilty after I tell you that your breath stinks or something, because it's affecting my life. So I'm just saying, speak up, say your truth, and don't be afraid. And if there needs to be clarification or there needs to be some communication thereafter, by all means, let's have that conversation. But
Mhm.
know that we are walking to your point. We will find how we move forward respectfully. So I love that.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the sides of the cube: facts, feelings, stories, desires. I hope I'm saying these right. Do you think people struggle? What do you think people struggle with the most and
Ooh,
why?
that's a good question. I actually use different letters for the cube because I have an acronym that I use for the cube.
Let's break it down to your acronyms. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the way that I remember the cube is I don't think I can cuss on this show, so I won't.
I
But it
mean, if you have children close by, just plug your ears for a hot minute.
the way that I remember this cube is oh what the
Okay, so what the flabber? Flabber.
oh what the fudge,
Oh,
okay?
what the
Because
fudge?
it's for your oh what the fudge like moments. Well,
Mhm,
you can use it for any moment, but it's like really helpful in those like what the fudge just happened? What the fudge is going
mhm.
on right now?
Yeah, yeah.
So O stands for observation. So that's where you talk about facts. So, observation, what can we agree is actually true? A camera can pick it up, a stenographer could type it up, it could be given to the court of law as evidence to say these are facts.
Mhm,
The T is for thoughts. So those are the assumptions or the stories that we tell, right? The
mhm.
opinions, the stories that we tell about what we're observing, right?
Okay.
The F is for the feelings, and the feelings is one of the ones that a lot of people struggle with because what people do with feelings is they conflate feelings and thoughts together. So a
Mhm,
feeling is an emotion word. I feel lonely. I feel agitated. I feel proud.
mhm,
When you say things like that, it's vulnerable. To
mhm,
express an emotion is vulnerable. So the way that we skirt that is we say things like, I feel like we're not on the same page. I
mm.
feel like you're being a jerk right now. Those
Right.
aren't feelings. Those are
Those are
thoughts.
straight thoughts.
Those are assumptions, those are judgments. And then
Yeah.
people get mad because they're like, "You how can you argue with how I feel? How I feel." My mom used to say this to me all the time. How you feel can never be wrong. And you're right. How you feel is not wrong. It's automatic. But what you think or assume, that is open to interpretation.
Exactly. Yes,
So when
mom.
you tell
Stop
me,
saying that thing.
when you tell me I feel like, that's not you giving your thought bulletproof vest.
Yes.
This is just you
Yes.
avoiding communicating why
Yes.
something is actually mattering to you.
And it's what reality shows are built on in this day and age. If you like,
Yeah.
I love to watch them because I like to see how they've trended from when they first started to where they are now. And 90% of the drama is the I feel. Not the
I
facts, not it's the thought, right? I feel like you this and I feel like you
feel like
that.
you're
And they
spending a
want
lot
that
of time with
honored.
her.
Yeah, they want it like Bible. Like they want that to be honored and that the person must bend to their will so they don't feel. Right? And that's why I
Yeah.
said the number one thing in coaching for me is don't feel in business. Because if you feel, especially if somebody says no to you, that's not a personal thing. They just don't need your product or service right now or ever. It wasn't
Mhm.
designed for them. So when you go around and you're trying to share that information and someone says no, I don't want to hear, I feel rejected. Like, they didn't put a ring on it. Like, get over it. Like, it was like, you know what I mean? You're selling a bag of candy. They
But I guess
probably are
that's the
diabetic
thing
and
too,
they
is
can't
like
eat it, you know?
the thing is about feelings though, and this is the thing about like even feelings in business, and this is why this is probably one of the most difficult cubes. This is one of the most difficult components of the cube to
Mhm,
use in a business setting. And I teach this in leadership courses, and it gets the most resistance because most people are like, there are no like there's no crying in baseball. Like there's no feelings when it comes to business. The fact is though is that feelings are automatic. You can't
100%.
control them. They come up.
100%.
What you think about that feeling, what you do with that feeling, that's a choice. So I feel rejected is, valid. I feel rejected. That's what's a feeling. What
100%.
do I think about that? I think that that means that I should just stop because I'm not worthy is
Well,
different from I feel rejected and I think that I can learn from what I did in that situation and how I can apply it to the next thing. So it's
yeah,
actually not even the feeling that doesn't it's that doesn't because again, feelings are automatic and 83% of our decisions even in business are directed from feelings. Our feelings are what dictate our behavior. How we feel about conflict is going to dictate how we show up in conflict or whether or not we show up in conflict. So even acknowledging I have that feeling now says, okay, well, now what do I want to do with that? I
if
feel
if
rejected.
trained, but
Yeah,
that's to a trained eye. To me, I feel that with people who don't take the time to develop the knowledge or the capacity around managing their emotions,
exactly.
it doesn't sound the same way. It instead businesses are shutting down. Like you're not doing anything. You stop posting, you stop talking to people. You have this entitled feeling that just because I came up with the idea and I think that it's amazing, that everyone else should feel it. And I say it's you can, but that's why we call it a market segmentation. That's why we call it a customer avatar. If you find who you're talking to, that person will feel you because they have a problem that you can solve. So I agree when you say that that feeling is yes, it's a valid thing. But if you're looking to move product, you can't be feeling every day, or else you'll never sell a thing, or not enough at least to make it
Or you have to
fulfill.
decide what the priority of that feeling is. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
exactly. I
even
can
like
agree
going
with
to the gym. I know that when I go to the gym, I don't feel motivated. What is the
that.
priority of that feeling? Low. Over my discipline, it is low, right?
Well,
So
that's it.
I've already
100%.
decided that feeling can exist,
But I
but
still
my
got to show up.
priority is my commitment. My
Exactly.
priority is my deliverable.
All right. I
So
feel you on that.
but
You
I
like
love what
that one
you
there? I feel you on that.
but
Yeah.
I love what you said. It's like because to the untrained, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because what you're saying there is that when you are not trained to identify your emotion and actually decide how to strategically navigate with that emotion, from
Mhm.
that emotion, then that emotion is going to guide your behaviors without your knowledge, which is why emotional intelligence is the CEO toolkit
It is.
because you have to acknowledge that there is a feeling and then decide, okay, that's there. What
Mm-hmm.
am I doing with it? And this is why the experience cube is so powerful because it allows you to name that feeling so that you can actually become rational about that feeling versus like just letting it run.
I love
So,
that.
feeling is the one that many people do struggle with, but even in communicating, because, and here's the thing too, is that people don't even want to communicate a feeling because they're afraid that if I
Hmm.
say I'm feeling, um, I'm feeling anxious,
Yeah.
that the other person is going to like it's going to make them seem like, oh, you're being emotional.
Hmm.
Stating an emotion is different from being emotional.
Yeah.
But what it
There,
does,
there are people who are emotional.
yeah.
There are people who are emotional. And
Oh, absolutely, there are
yeah,
people who are emotional,
there
but
are people emotional. But I would say to those, I tend to say, if you don't know the person, they're not in your personal circle, they really don't have the power to make you feel anything, right? Like if my husband said something to me, I will take that 10 times more to heart than some random with a position title sitting there on a meeting telling me. Because I'm gonna look at them and be like, yeah, whatever. You don't hold weight in my life like that. And that's where, even at work where I used to counsel my staff and say, you guys are letting people hold weight in your life who don't have any relevance to your personal experiences, because that's where a lot of feelings come from. They come from I've been ignored, or I've been hurt, or I've been abused. And then some random person says something and I'm triggered. I'm triggered. And I say, yeah, but you got to be careful who you let pull the trigger. You know what I'm saying?
but
Gotta
exactly what you're saying, like that is the power of something like an experience cube is to say that this same person could say to me, Lauren, this project sucks.
Mm-hmm.
and it could break me
Mm-hmm.
because I have the experiences, because I have the beliefs in myself that I'm not valid. And I
Right.
have all this like background experience of people telling me that my work isn't good enough and everything, so it triggers a certain feeling in me, whereas
Mm-hmm.
that same CEO or whoever can say to Josette, this project sucks. And because of your experiences, because of your belief system, because of how you were raised and the stories that you tell yourself, you're able to be like, that's cool. It doesn't affect me. Neither of those realities are wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
just that that is my experience based on who I am and what I'm bringing to the table. And this is your experience based on where you are bringing to the table, which is why, back to your earlier point, we cannot always hold ourselves accountable to how someone else is going to receive it, because a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times how someone receives your words has nothing to do with you. It
Right.
has to do with their lived experiences, their internal triggers, et cetera, et cetera. So we can't tell someone that how they feel is right or wrong. It's based on their
Yeah,
experiences.
100%.
What we can do is help them to say, but is your way of expressing that emotion or expressing that feeling actually helping you towards your goals? Yes or no?
That's it. But that's it. I mean, when we talk about high performance, we know from all the GOATs, whether it's in sports, music, business, whatever the case is, there's a consistent thing that you can't move forward if you're always looking backwards,
No.
right? Like that, I don't feel to work out today. A bodybuilder can't say that and then go on a stage and flex a droopy bicep. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just can't. You can't say, I don't feel like going to the court and practicing and then expect to show up on the NBA stage or some other platform. Like, there's just some of the realities that I just want people to understand. It's like, when I go for it, it doesn't mean that I don't have those days where I don't want to get up and coach and I don't want to
Yeah.
get up and have to get on the screen and talk and share knowledge and whatever the case is. But I do it because I'm so disciplined. It's not an option for feelings to take my performance level down,
Exactly.
right?
You've
So to
decided
your
what you're in advance, what you're
the
going to do with
priority.
that feeling.
Exactly. And the priority for me is these millions, honey. So I
Exactly.
got work to do.
I
Right?
can't control the feeling of being tired and unmotivated or rejected. I can't embarrassed. I can't control that feeling coming forward.
Yeah.
What I can control is the story I tell myself about that feeling. What I can control is what I do next. So the
Hmm.
part of the experience cube. So the reason why the feeling word is so powerful, the feeling part is powerful and often skipped. We
Yeah.
can see why it's often
Yep.
skipped.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what makes it powerful is like when we talk about the human brain, emotions live in our limbic system, which is like as humans, we're on autopilot 80 to 90% of the time.
100%.
Autopilot. Our fast brain is going. And that's based on our reptilian brain and our limbic system, which means like you think about reptilian brain and limbic system, think about a zebra, right?
Mhm.
A zebra
Yeah.
can't necessarily control when they feel afraid. They just see a
Mm.
lion and they freeze,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I mean,
It's
they
instinct.
know that
It's
they
automatic. It's
ass.
instinct. It's
Yeah.
hunger, it's blinking. All of that is instinct. That means
Yes.
that there's only 10 to 20% that we're using for rational thought.
Hmm.
So when we do get triggered, right, what happens is our threat response system activates and says, go into self preservation mode, preserve all energy, protect yourself at all costs. And in
Hmm.
order to preserve that energy, it blocks off your rational brain from like being accessed, right?
Hmm.
That's why our rational brain isn't necessarily active in the moments that we feel rejected or triggered or angry or whatever. Like we just go into our limbic system, we just
Yeah.
go into that mode.
Yeah.
When you break it, when you slow down to name, what am I feeling right now? You are processing language, which is in your rational brain, and it reconnects.
Hmm.
So, automatically, by even saying, I feel rejected, you are inviting your logical brain to come back online in
Hmm.
one way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
So, the experience cube is really about slowing your thoughts down.
Hmm.
Because let's take that meeting. I went to this meeting And the CEO told me your project sucks. And I was like, I hate this guy. I hate working here. This is stupid. Da 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 da. Blah blah blah. I go home to my family and I just throw a fit. Right? Let's cube it out. What did you observe? What I observed is he said my project sucks. We can all agree he said that.
Mm-hmm.
What did that make you think? It made me think that my hard work wasn't being valued. Well, how does that make you feel? It makes me feel rejected. It makes me feel unworthy. It makes me feel embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what do you want? I want for him to recognize the contributions that I bring to the workplace.
So you want a participation ribbon?
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
But even that is more productive
Mm-hmm.
than spiraling and
Mm-hmm.
being like, forget this place, blah 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 blah, whatever. At least when we work through it that way,
Mm-hmm.
we can actually then incite an action to say, okay, well, now how do we get that? Right? What is the conversation we need to have?
Yeah.
And because I think that that's the other part of the cube, that so where we stay in the cube is between observations and thoughts. We're very good at talking about what we saw and how we felt
Right.
and what we thought about it. This is complaining, right?
This is just straight complaining.
This is just straight complaining. And we're good here. We're very good here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feeling and want is where we get to processing and productivity, right?
Yes.
So when we get to feeling, we can start to process. And when we get to want, we can start to become productive, because a lot of us are very good at articulating what we don't want. What we're not very good at articulating is what we actually really want.
Yep.
And when you talk about building executive presence, when you talk about owning your space in the room, it's about having the courage to express your desires, to express, well, this is what I want to see happen. Because otherwise, all we're doing is just complaining.
That's it. 100%. I like that. And you know, it reminds me, and I'm going to share this thought after my little plug here. If you're just coming in, welcome to Lovely Afrobeat Music Talk Radio. We are coming down. We're actually winding down. But if you're just getting here, make sure you're subscribing. I see Grace 081674. Add your Discord username. Okay, I don't use Discord. I heard about it. I don't know, but you can subscribe right here.
that action item on you.
Huh?
Let's put that action item on them.
Right? Yeah, I don't know nothing about Discord, but you can subscribe right here on Love Bait. The show is here. You could also go to my own page, Empire by Design Media, on YouTube as well. Or you can go to my website, empirebydesign.ca. I upload all my shows there for quick access. But I definitely want to tie this into what you're saying. And it feels very much like my drip strategy, the drip mindset, right? I talk about the negative drip cycle is the D is demotivation, right? You're not getting the response you want. You're not getting the things you want in life. You're not maybe accelerating the way you want, or people just misunderstand what you're trying to achieve. You're in the wrong circles. It could be anything, but it creates that demotivation, that confusion, the frustration. But then you turn that, and then the R turns into resistance. You refuse to start thinking of, the help you need. And you start saying, you start using that whole mantra of, the world is just out to get me. Nobody cares. My family doesn't care. My girls don't care, et cetera, which turns into isolation. Right? That isolation of I can do bad all by myself. I said it in a post, I think, or last week, I said, where people walk away and say, Miss J, I'm going to come back after I fixed everything. I'm like, but you messed it up in the first place. So let me fix it, because you can't fix what you broke, because you just don't know how to fix it. Right? So isolating yourself is not the way. And then that leads to pity. Right? The struggle is real. Woe is me. I always want to tell my tragic story, which is not so tragic. You have somewhere to live. You have food in your kitchen. Your kids are healthy. What's the tragedy? Stop creating things. Stop pitying yourself, and tell yourself to get into a positive drip cycle, which is, of course, drive. Get up. Resilience. You're going to fall. Land on your back. Look up, and then get up. Leads to innovation. Instead of isolating yourself, figure out new ways to get yourself up and moving. And then it leads to progression. So we're very much in line with those thought processes because
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. It comes down to me to a performance perspective where if you're going to go out there and expect to be paid the millions, you have to perform like you're $1 million product. Like Beyonce doesn't step on stage in Homecoming and give you one line and then walk off. She brings the world of a production. She's giving you
Mhm.
an experience from the time she says, "Hey y'all," to the time she says, "I'm out." Right.
Yeah.
And that's the level of drip you kind of gotta be functioning at, right? So that in these rooms, whether you're sitting as somebody in the executive or career world, or whether you're sitting in as a CEO, you have to understand that what you say and how you show up is how people will treat you. You act like a punk, they're gonna treat you like a punk. You act like a boss, they're gonna respect your cause, right? So it's your choice. We can't, like Lauren says, your feelings are real. Question you have to ask yourself, and I'm sure your bank account's asking, saying, "Do you got to feel all the time? Because I mean, we broke around these parts.
I'm doing it.
Could you stop
Oh, yeah.
feeling?
What are you
Could
gonna
you
do with
stop
this?
feeling?" All right. So definitely. All right. One
Yeah.
question before we wrap up. If you wanted to say to somebody how to balance that compassion with accountability in those tough moments or conversations, what would it be?
Ooh, yeah, it's such a great question because I think that where a lot of leaders fear compassion is because they view compassion as a
Mm-hmm.
shield from accountability or empathy, even more. Like, how can I like be like, I see you, I hear you,
I feel you.
and it's okay. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
I got this. Like, um, and the whole point is like empathy is and compassion is not necessarily like I
Mm-hmm.
need to agree with you. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. It doesn't mean that's okay, you don't have to do. It also doesn't mean that the other person
Right.
can't be challenged. It says I can see your truth from your
Yes.
perspective.
I love
That's
it.
what compassion is. I can see your truth from your perspective. I can see how you arrived at your version
Mm-hmm.
of truth.
Yeah.
What do we do with that? How can we move forward? And that is like really the difference between like sympathy and empathy, right? Because sympathy or that is that like, I feel for what
Mm-hmm.
you're going through. Period, full stop. You know what I mean?
Done. Done and done.
That's so
That's
sorry
it.
that's happening for you. Empathy is I can see what's happening for you. I can see how what's happening for you. I can understand why that's affecting you. I don't necessarily agree with it because it's not my lived experience. The way that you can hear someone say, I feel rejected, and you can say, I actually, I don't agree with your feeling of being rejected because if I were in your shoes, I wouldn't feel rejected, but I can understand what would lead you to feel rejected. What do we
Mm-hmm.
want to do with that next? So I think that that is where compassion can meet accountability is by that challenge to say like, great, see
Now
that.
what?
Now what?
And that now what? Part three. The leadership mirror. Be in the room, part three. What you bring into the room. That's what we're going to be discussing next week. So make sure you tune in. Lauren, I want to say thank you. I mean, we didn't even, there's so much meat left in this conversation, but you know what? We're going to
I didn't even tell you how it saved my
That's what I'm
marriage.
saying. I want to hear that story. So we're going to open up with that. I'm making a note to myself to say, open up with why her marriage is saved. I am sure a lot of women out there are going to be jumping on this just to hear how to save their marriage. Um, so I want to thank you. Lauren will be here. Make sure you're following her. Where?
You can follow me on Instagram at Coach Lauren Morrison. You can also check me out on my website,
There you go. And make sure you get her
www.beintheroomcoaching.com.
book. It's going to be legit. Where can they find the book?
You can now pre-order on Amazon. It's if you're in Canada, it's not. I think the pre-order for the paperback is only
Okay.
available in the U.S. But just stay tuned because when it releases on January
All
20th, it
right.
will
I
be
see
available
that
everywhere.
My producer's putting up little messages like views expressed here are not reflecting of the radio station. Well, thanks, Dr. T. I thought we were family, but clearly if I do something wrong, I'm being disowned liability wise. I love it. Lauren, I'll see you in a few minutes and I'm just going to close out the show. Thanks for being here, sis. As always.
All
As
right.
always,
Thanks
you
for
know
having
that's a
me.
regular. For the rest of you who
Yeah.
are here, I want to thank you for tuning into Business Weekly here on Love Day Afrobeat Music Talk Radio with your girl, Miss J, your drip strategist, boss methodologist, and hostess with the mostest. As you know, we're doing a three-part series. We did Be in the Room, The Cost of Silence. Today was the second part, The Experience Cube. So make sure you tune in next week so you can hear how it saved Lauren's marriage. And we'll continue to explore the transformative power of the cube next week with the leadership mirror, what you bring into the room. Because I always tell people, stop trying to show up at tables with an empty plate, honey. You got to bring something for the potluck, okay? So as always, I want you to remember, we are here to learn, to grow, to teach, to share, and to enjoy the journey. So let's build something legendary. And as always, get your wings up and let's fly. Have a good one. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you. Tomorrow, I'm hosting Shop EPD, the brand experience live. I didn't get a chance to put up the flyer, but if you are interested, please hit us up. Let me know. You can contact the radio station or just email me at info@empirebydesign.ca, or you can go to shop.epd on Instagram. Again, that's shop, shop.ebd on Instagram, and click the link. The registrations are open. It's free. Just bring your credit card, get on your couch, and be ready to be wowed by the amazing women-led businesses that I'm going to be showcasing tomorrow. It starts at 7:30 p.m. Friday, December 5th. Okay, so lock in, tap in, swipe, push, purchase, and let's build this